All right. When you handle events with very important personalities such as we have today, you need to be certain. I'm already in the mood of tomorrow, and so I thought today was the 6th of February, actually. So the birthday celebrations of Mr. Kolade Oshinawo and Mr. Innocent Chukuma are actually tomorrow, and that's why I mixed it up. Today is actually our chairman's birthday. Introduce them. Next to me is a man I've heard so much about, and he's one of those that I've indeed made this country very, very proud. But before I do that, I think lest I lose my job, it's only proper that I do the right thing. The chairman of today's event just walked in, one of the very distinguished. Someone asked me if I was a member of the Bowtie Club and if I had paid my subscription. And I said to him that the president of the Bowtie Club is someone I know, and I have his permission. And if I have his permission, I don't think anyone can stop me. I'm sure you can guess. Please join me in welcoming the chairman of today's event, Mr. Folusho Phillips. I was once in his office, and he said to me, that my own class is different because we wear prepaid bow ties, but they not their bow tie. And I said, okay, sir, we'll get there. One day we'll get there. Please join me in acknowledging this very distinguished Nigerian. As I was saying, we have a number of Nigerians who have made us proud. And if you've not heard about the Songhai farm, I would advise that you Google it. This is something that is really, really, really something to celebrate. Magic, wonders are going on in that place. And the man behind this whole thing is Reverend Father Godfrey Izamujo. Please, sir. They say there are different kind of doctors. There are honorary doctors, and there are those that have earned it. One of those that have earned it this morning is Dr. Fred Olayele. Please join me in acknowledging him. I don't know if I need to introduce the Archbishop because I'd called his name earlier, but in case you just walked into the room, next to him is Archbishop Augustine Akubeze. I needed to take that breath. Akubeze. Representing the President of the Republic of Rwanda is the Ambassador Stanilas Kamanzi, representing President Paul Kagame. Now, today is a very special day in the sense that a lot of us know we're here to celebrate Professor Patrick Otomi, but in a very unique way, we have a couple of people who share this day with him. We have, before that, the chairman of the event himself had his birthday yesterday. Today, wow. Isn't this special? And you'll have noticed that we have a couple of cakes. So we'll have a few things up our sleeves today. It's promises to be a very interesting day for you. So we have one of those celebrating today alongside our chairman, Mr. Innocent Chukuma, the country rep, Ford Foundation, West Africa. Next to him is a veteran artist and master painter, Mr. Kolade Oshinawa, also celebrating his birthday today. All right. You know, when you handle events with very important personalities such as we have today, you need to be certain. You know, I'm already in the mood of tomorrow, and so I thought today was the 6th of February, actually. So the birthday celebrations of Mr. Kolade Oshinawa and Mr. Innocent Chukuma are actually tomorrow, and that's why I mixed it up. Today is actually our chairman's birthday. Okay. All right. Before we introduce someone very, very important, someone who needs little or no introduction, please let me introduce someone who has flown in all the way from our sister country. Someone said, Patrick Doyle said yesterday that in Nigeria, we put the O after anything we say. But in Ghana, the O comes before anything they say. Do I need to tell you who I'm talking about? All right. We have with us Mrs. Nana Afatsino. Okay, at this point, you would join me, and I hope we're ready with the national anthem. We would join me in welcoming the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Oh, are you waiting for me to call his name? Vice President Yemi Oshibanjo. And to welcome in with the national anthem would be TK, a classical music artist. Indulge you. Just ask that you please rise as we take the national anthem.
Okay. And sit down, right? And sit down, right? Yes.
Those paths shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, TK. Please join me in welcoming the founder of the Center for Values in Leadership, Professor Patrick Otomi, to give us his welcome address.
Excellency, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Rwanda, represented by His Excellency the Ambassador, Your Excellencies, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am enormously honored to be able to welcome all of you to the 13th in the series of annual lecture symposia designed by the CVL, the Center for Values in Leadership, to focus attention on some challenges before us, before our shared humanity. Because I'm also very cheap, through the years it has been used as an excuse to celebrate my birthday. Typically we have no eating and drinking, so when we have this lecture, which usually is on my birthday, and people say, what follows? We say, we've had it, we've celebrated. This year, interestingly, it is not exactly on my birthday, because my birthday is tomorrow. But we have chosen to celebrate it on the birthday of the chairman of the occasion, Mr. Furusha Phillips. So, happy birthday to you, Mr. Chairman. This year, the annual lecture has been part of a week of activities that we call the CVL Week. And there is a theme for the entire week of activity. And this theme is wealth, poverty, and human dignity. We have gone through a number of programs during the course of the week, literally one every day, to focus attention on some specific areas. I think appropriately we started with culture. On Sunday, we celebrated culture for a number of reasons. Part of it is that we have tried to make the point through the years that culture is a strong area of competitive advantage for our country, and that we could do a lot more, thrive a lot better, if we packaged and marketed our culture than we're actually doing from selling crude oil. And that process has enabled us through the years to work with Nollywood when nobody thought there was anything serious there. I remember in the very early days, I used to organize free lectures and workshops at the Lagos Business School for people involved in developing that industry. And they give back enormously on Sunday with a thrilling evening that we had, and we're really thankful to them. Mr. Ajayi Lycett, who celebrated her 75th birthday only 2 days ago, was part of, in fact, led the performance on Sunday. But 25 years ago, we used to have meetings on what to do about culture in Lagos, in my home. And there was an American who truly became Nigerian called Chuck Mike, who led the performance studio workshop that performed out of the theater just nearby here. I'm thankful that from the years of doubt, people now are taking culture more seriously. But we do need a night economy in Lagos. We could put hundreds of thousands of people to work if we had a thriving night economy, building culture, packaging it, and selling it to the world. So I'm glad that we got a chance to bring attention to that on Sunday. And we followed with an entrepreneurship summit, which we brought some outstanding Nigerian entrepreneurs who have really walked on water as far as making enterprise come alive. And they shared their experiences with a number of young entrepreneur wannabes. But what was particularly exciting for me on that day, which is played through the whole of this week, is the presence of the Ajegunle contingent. Many years ago, through Benga Sheson and his work with information technology, Your Eminence, I became involved and got to know a lot more about the possibilities of making a huge difference in challenged communities. Since that period, the CVL has done quite a bit of work in the Ajegunle community. And right now, it's involved in a Citibank-sponsored initiative to bring entrepreneurship to that community. And we had young entrepreneurs from that community at the event at the Lagos Business School on Tuesday. And we had a business plan competition. One of the banks supported that process. And at an event tomorrow, we're going to present checks to winners of that business plan competition. Fair amount of money, but that's not what we get their business where it's going. But tomorrow they will get a chance to make presentations to a significant group of business people who can choose to fund them. And imagine how much we can transform society if a number of those businesses eventually get where they could get to. And so that focus on our commitment to venturing and the dignity of the human person was raised. And those who listen to me know that I frequently talk about a favorite verse of scripture for me, which is Genesis 2:15. That in fact we were created to be co-creators with God, moving creation towards its perfection. And through venturing, we do get to go and travel that route. The day after, we had a colloquium on politics in developmental states and human progress. One of the much debated subjects of our country is whether politics is underdeveloped in Nigeria. Our politicians bringing progress to our country, or are they taking our country back? How much does our politics reflect the need to elevate the dignity of the human person in our community? And that was a most interesting debate. Anybody who knows a debate with Femi Falana knows that it will not be boring. And we had a remarkable conversation that day. Yesterday, we had occasion to listen to Obi Ezekwesili speak to this theme as we presented a number of books that we have been associated with, either as author or the subject of in the discussion of poverty, its alleviation, and the dignity of the human person. And that was also an interesting day. Today we come to the heart of the matter, and we're enormously honored to have such a distinguished group of people to share experience with. I want, in closing, to turn to what matters the most to me, which is gratitude. So gratitude to so many for generosity undeserved that has made these 60 years much more pleasant than they could have been. It's a gentleman here, you don't realize things you do until people reflect you as mirror. As a gentleman in this audience who has played a remarkable part in one of the series of competitions, business plan competition for entrepreneurs. We had another one, a public policy debate series, which undergraduates, some of who are here, even with some of their parents, participated in debating public policy issues. And they had a remarkable number of entries. They had to start stopping people from trying to participate. And I think at the point there were past 600 undergraduates who wanted to participate in this process. Out of that list, and I got a chance to speak to 15 when they came to Abuja for a review about a week or two ago, speaking to them, 15 of them, and many of them are here today. We're going to have winners from this process and honor them and give them prizes at some point tomorrow. But it was fascinating. You know, those who think that tomorrow is lost have seen nothing yet. Our young people are much, much better than we give them credit for. And they want to change their country, and they are committed. And so, in presenting the books that focused on that and coming to today with this panel, I hope we can truly, truly say thank you to all the people who have been part of this. I was talking about a gentleman and a habit, and he was responsible for organizing that debate series. Kingsley Bankwell, I had the opportunity of traveling as a visitor to the United States, a program from the U.S. government with a group of people. He was one of them. And when I heard him make a remark somewhere, he said he had never heard as many thank yous in his life as being in my company over a few weeks. And it occurred to me that that is really true. I am exceptionally grateful for every moment, and I say thank you several hundred times every day. But I can't say thank you enough on a day like this. Thank you, and I start at where it matters most, to my dear wife. And I can tell you about being married to a woman like this. As a graduate student in the United States many, many years ago, I got a chance to be an intern with the Indiana delegation to the U.S. Congress and rotated through the members of the Congress. One of the congressmen at the time, the senator, was Dan Quayle, who became vice president of the United States later. And people like to make fun of Dan Quayle because he misspelled potatoes and stuff like that. But I can tell you something. In those days, by the way, there's a famous TV series, Lou Grant. And Lou was asked why, his old teacher ran into him and said, Lou, you became a famous editor? You couldn't spell. And looked and said, yes, I learned to use the dictionary. So no problem with spelling, just learn to use the dictionary. But I think that Danquil took a lot of beating, not because he couldn't spell potato or tomato. He took a lot of beating because he was married to a much more clever woman, Maureen. But I tell people, why should that be a crime? I too am married to a woman who's more clever than I am, and I'm still around. I add to being clever, being very good looking. I mean, after 5 children, that's how she looks. Gratitude to so many. Today, particularly, dear Vice President, I think that he and I have had many conversations. And if our conversations play through, our country will be a greater place tomorrow. Your Eminence, I can't thank you enough. Colonel Nayeka, at this time yesterday, was in another continent and was flying towards Abuja, not Lagos. And he's managed to be here this morning. Thank you so much, Your Eminence. Your Grace, I mean, I can go on, and that would take up too much time. But the Ambassador of Rwanda, really thank you so very much. The people of Rwanda are so gracious. When the president could not come, and my phone rang this morning, and he said, I'm calling from the office of the president of Rwanda. I thought, my goodness, we have this kind of decency left in the world, and they wanted to apologize personally that they could not be here, but they are represented, and I thank you very much indeed. I'm going to miss out many people, but there is a vote of thanks from the bottom of my heart. Gratitude flows out. Thank you all so much.
Vintage Professor Patrick Utomi. Very, very grateful. Please give him another round of applause. Prof beat me to it because I was actually going to quickly introduce his wife because, you know, having been married a few years myself, I now realize the folly of not following due process, of not following the right protocol. So when we say Professor Patrick Utomi is having his birthday tomorrow, indeed what we mean is Professor Patrick Utomi is a co-participant in the birthday tomorrow. Please join me in celebrating the main celebrants, Dr. Mrs. Ifeoma Utomi. Having secured my entrance into the Utomi residence, please join me in welcoming someone who I would also like to introduce very specially. You know, someone was talking about Professor Utomi and saying that, I think it was Debella Williams saying that Professor Utomi helps people whose parents he doesn't know, lends a lending hand. And I dare say that the gentleman I'm about to introduce is another such person. Each time I pick up my phone to disturb him, he's always willing to help. Please join me in welcoming someone I call Mentor, the chairman of today's event, to give his opening remarks, Mr. Felicia Phillips.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Let me just slip in there that the Vice President is an old boy of Igbobi College. And up I say, yes, and I have to say that simply because I am currently the President of the Igbobi College Obos Association. But then again, good morning to you, Pat, the birthday boy to be. I recognize and I do salute the ambassadors here and everybody else here on the high table. As I say, I stand on previous protocols. I want to start by saying a huge congratulations to Pat. You know, Pat, happy birthday. I know it's tomorrow, but happy birthday all the same. And I'm sure right through this week, all the various events that have taken place have been embedded with endless eulogies about you and praise for all the work that you've done. And I think you really deserve it. But like everybody else, and I think this just shows that it's so important, I also have scribbled here on my note here, and I actually read it. I want to congratulate Ifoma, Pat's dear wife, and thank her for tolerating him all these 28 or so years. Because, you know, when you see Pat in a good day and, you know, Pat, how is Ifoma? Oh, she's tolerating me, you know. And you find that we sometimes celebrate people whose success is not wholly theirs, but is rightly shared by others who we sometimes ignore. And really, Ifoma, I say a good thank you to you. Congratulations. Thanks for doing a great job, because I know that we say that behind every man there's a successful woman, but the point is, I think you've pulled this man along all the way. I thank you for doing a great job. Pat, we all congratulate you and your family, and I personally welcome you to the 60s Club, because I crossed that club many years ago. I know you all don't believe it, but I have. I have known Pat as a great and relentless advocate for true leadership. I mean, all you need to do is to engage him within 5 minutes. He's varying on topics and issues concerning leadership. And I sense that Pat's continuing frustration at the misused and misspent opportunities in our country has forced him to question this issue about the leadership that we have. And I believe that frustration has manifested itself in the creation of the Center for Value in Leadership and the continuing investment that has kept that initiative alive. I don't want to beat on it too much, but I tell you, it is Pat's frustration with the system, and all you need to do is to have a conversation with him, and you see it going through. So I can understand why the Center for Value in Leadership is an extremely important institution in trying to at least play his own part and see how we can continue to influence everybody and get everybody to get on board and appreciate it. Fundamentally, it always comes down to leadership. It's very much the same tone as we say that a very fundamental problem with our country today is that of corruption, which the president is pursuing and trying to deal with as a root cause. And attached to that also is this issue about leadership. Now, when Pat asked that I join him at this session, I must confess that my heart sank a bit, because you know, my initial reaction was that, oh my God, I have to speak at a gathering that Pat is organizing. You see, that means you've got to do your work, do your research. You know, it's going to be taxing. You can't come and just bullshit your way through it. You know, it's Pat's event. But lo and behold, he made it easier for me, because he said, look, Felicia, you're just going to be the chairman, and you've got eminent masters of ceremonies around to help you, and they can do all the heavy lifting. And then you have a panel of very distinguished people that can do all the heavy and deep thinking. So my task is extremely easy. And, you know, sitting next to the vice president, I tell you, I'm going to be sitting really pretty. You know. But however, before I sit down, I would like to share, as Pat has suggested, some few thoughts that I have on the chosen theme for today, which is about wealth, poverty, and human dignity. I did give it some thought, and I thought, well, it's a really interesting combination of words for this theme. A few weeks ago, I was in India, and in between my meetings, I had some time to really have a bit of a relaxed morning, and I was watching television and watched the BBC World, the normal documentary that's shown. And this documentary aptly describes and captures the theme of today. The documentary was about Greece. You know, Greece has been through a lot of challenges. It was about the challenges that country had faced, especially last year, and how the whole economy seemed to just ground to a halt, you know, seemingly just like that. And the documentary interviewed and captured the thoughts and situation of a particular man who was down and out on his luck and had been relegated to the lowest level of existence you could ever wish on anybody. Within the space of about 18 months, this man had moved from being a skilled builder and workman with a wife and a child, a home of his own, their annual vacation trips, surrounded by family in the true European style. He was relegated to a beggar on the streets. You see, within that period, he lost his job, then he lost his home. He ended up on the street with his daughter, who was now taken from him because she had to be taken into care. Not much was said about the wife. And this was a situation in which he had absolutely no choice to give up his daughter. And that was the first shot at his dignity. To lose your job, lose your home was tough enough. And then now, somebody else was taking custody of your child. This man was being fed at a central soup kitchen every day. He slept in shelters and took free bus rides all day to stay warm. He would wake up in the morning, jump in a bus, go as far as he could on a free ride, and then ride all the way back just to stay warm and to stay off the streets. There were no job places for him to even queue for a job. And he was ready to do any job to regain some level of dignity. You see, he had lost his dignity through the circumstantial poverty that he faced of having lost his source of living. So if you look at the process from wealth to poverty and then the resulting loss of dignity, it's almost like it's staged, like a gradual degradation of one's situation leading to a shattered life, a loss of your dignity. Now, the Greek man's situation is no different from the phases a country like ours could very easily go through step by step. My position is this: we tend to confuse being rich with being wealthy. They are two totally different situations. Nigeria remains an extremely rich country. Yes, we are rich in mineral resources, our gold, amethysts, precious stones that I can't even pronounce. And of course our oil and gas for all it's worth. We are rich in agricultural capacity, we're rich in human capacity, but we're not wealthy. We're not a wealthy nation. And the reason is that we haven't learned to turn our riches into wealth. Very much like children who are left vast inheritances, which come to naught in such a short time because they have not learned the art of creating wealth. Creating wealth in Nigeria's context is learning to add value. It's getting cocoa from the ground and turning it into chocolates. It's getting cotton and turning it into fabrics. It's getting cassava and turning it into starch and sweeteners and all those things. It's learning to do things along that value chain. It's learning to extract our gold and turning it into jewelry in which you've added value. That's how you create wealth. And that's where we've lost out in that process. Our inability to learn the art of adding value will continue to make wealth creation an illusion. You see, we're so out of practice that we are no longer able to enhance the competencies which we were developing during or before the oil boom. Before the oil boom, we were developing tremendous competencies in agriculture and the whole value chain of agriculture. The Bank of the North, National Bank, the Bank in the East, our railway system, our research institutions, even our universities were geared towards agriculture, saying, let us learn how we can add value. But of course, the oil boom came, and with oil, the rest is history. And then the import license period as well, where the little manufacturing that we were doing, because certainly at my time, when I was working in Ikeja as a controller, we had your Pfizers, your Dunlops, a whole lot of them in Ikeja area, and many more in Agbara. And gradually, import license regime, and it was now who could get import license and not who could manufacture. So we lost that art, that consistency of practice, of learning to do things. And you see, you cannot become good at something that you do not do regularly. Now, today, oil is gone. We know it's gone for now. And we're now jumping on the solid minerals bandwagon. And we find a lot of state governments are going to increase the intensity of their mining. They're going to increase the intensity of their agricultural efforts. But you see, the little missing link is that little effort is being put into how we're going to add value to those things so that we can create wealth. You see, we run the risk of continuing with a commodity-based economy by just changing to a different commodity. That's the latest talk in town. The pressure for revenue is so high because we've got to generate revenue so quickly that the fastest route is to just get rich quickly by just selling our commodities and not going through the route of adding value to it. The wealth creation route is a slow route, and we must not this time around leave it to our children, not leave it to the next generation. At least the best we can do is to start the process. If you are rich but do not turn your riches to wealth, you will remain poor, and poverty challenges human dignity. Let me share another experience with you before I sit down. Now, this is a bit personal. My daughter, a few years ago, returning home for her Christmas vacation, was caught up in a bad snowstorm that resulted in the airline being diverted to Manchester instead of London. And the whole trip was a huge challenge to everybody. It took more than 24 hours. So she had a US bank card, but didn't work with the ATM machine for some security reasons. And so she ran out of cash, so she was stuck. So she was in the category of poverty at that stage. Whilst we eventually managed to rescue her through friends who lived in Manchester so she could pay for her train ride to London and carry on with her trip, the experience she went through was one of the best lessons on losing one's dignity. And I think that's one that stays with her continuously. Before help came, she was about to start begging for the money she needed. She actually went to a very well-dressed white family who had shared the ordeal of the flight with her. You know, when you go through this get on and off and the flight is delayed, you tend to develop some relationships. But she went to this family and asked for just £6 to top up her cash which she had. And she actually showed them the amount of money that she had. The man said, "Sorry, I can't help you." And this was a family with Louis Vuitton suitcases and 2 or 3 of them and looking very affluent, which is why she thought they would help. But you see, as God would have it, another seemingly struggling Nigerian family just observed her at a distance. And they could see she was getting a bit upset, probably beginning to cry. And they came to her rescue. And they gave her £10. And as she said, she burst into tears. But the thing about it is that obviously when her rescue came, she returned the money. But the lesson is that is what poverty does to the human being. It shreds your dignity. It's a frightening prospect. So in Nigeria, we have our riches in great abundance. But we will become a poverty-stricken nation if we do not learn to create wealth from our riches. We're very, very proud people. I must not let that pride lead to a loss of our dignity. So I think this is a very interesting topic, and I know there'll be different perspectives of this, because whilst I talked a bit about dignity, there's dignity in labor, which a lot is being talked about today, that let's see how we can put dignity into labor. And poverty is not just about money. There's poverty of ideas, poverty of values, poverty of not doing the right things. These are all the things we all have to continue to think about and to bear in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you. Pat, happy birthday once again.
Another round of applause for him, please. While the chairman was speaking, a couple of very important dignitaries, such as all of us that arrived earlier, walked in, and we'll just quickly like to acknowledge them. and welcome some to the high table. So we have with us this morning, representing the national leader of the APC, the former Deputy Governor of Lagos State, Otumba Femi Pedro. Please, sir. Please, another round of applause for him. Also present here is, we've heard about solid minerals. I'm sure the chairman wasn't referring to the person I'm about to call to the high table. But we have with us a very distinguished Nigerian, someone who sets a very good example for we, the younger ones, when he conceded a few years ago. Sir, thank you very much. Please join me in welcoming the Minister of Solid Minerals. Are you waiting for me to announce his name? Oh, okay, just so you know that I didn't forget his name. The Minister of Solid Minerals, former Governor Kade Fayemi. I'm aware that we have some of his former colleagues in the audience, and I'm about to introduce one of them. Well, this time not to the high table. I think we've exhausted the seats. But please join me in recognizing the presence of a very unique governor in his time, Dr. Peter Obi, former governor of Anambra State. When I was much younger, there was a song that was very popular during the time of elections. It went, Mommy, Daddy, Agbalajo Bine Dibo. Do you know it? All right, then a few years down the line, another song decided to compete with that song. Everybody loves. You know the song? I mean, you should know the song. Everybody loves Jimmy Agbaje. Please join me in recognizing the presence of JK. Okay, now, we're about to go international, and I need to try to be like the chairman of today's occasion. When he was speaking, I thought, you know, it's not good to be here when you have such distinguished Nigerians, because they are the proof that indeed the standard of education has fallen. When you listen to me, and you listen to them, you begin to wonder what kind of school I went to. So bear with me. Imagine that you're listening to the chairman. We have with us today the Director of African Studies at Northwestern University in the USA, former Special Advisor to the US President, Jimmy Carter, and the keynote speaker at the second CVL annual lecture in 2005, Professor Richard Joseph. I think he will be a good judge of how well I tried to feign proper pronunciation of the English words. Did I try? Encourage me, people. We also have with us the Chairman, Emerald Energy Resources Limited, Dr. Emmanuel Egboga. We have the former Chairman, NESG, Professor Anya O. Anya. We have the CEO of ABC Transport, Mr. Frank Eneji. We have the General Manager, Chief Audit Officer of Union Bank, Mr. David Izavere. I'm sorry, Dr. David Izavere. Forgive me, sir. I've not even come close to a doctorate. How dare I make such a mistake? earned doctorate. I like when people speak like this. You know, if you've not gotten something, begging, losing your dignity, you're very proud of it. He had to remind me, so earned doctorate. I beg you, I'm very sorry, sir. Thank you very much. I may proceed. Thank you very much. Now, I dare not make this mistake in the next introduction, and you know why. You know, when I tell people I'm half-caste, some of my friends say it's mixed breed. Half-caste being that my father is from the South, my mother is Yoruba, even my father is half Yoruba, and then my name is Abidemi Edmond. So I can't be forgiven if I make this mistake, because I'm about to introduce the custodian of the land. And as a half Yoruba boy, I need to do it right. You can see that stick. For those of you that are not Nigerians, that stick represents the presence of the Oba of Lagos. Please join me in welcoming. Represented ably by distinguished white cap chiefs. When you come into Lagos, they make you recognize that indeed, Ilueko, Lawai, Abi, they nodded, so I'm in order. Another round of applause for me, please. It is my pleasure. I know you have the schedule and you are expecting me to introduce someone, but just before we introduce the person you think I'm about to introduce, Professor Patrick Utomi has just told us that we have in our presence the representative of the President of Rwanda, Ambassador Stanislas Kamanzi. Please join me in welcoming to give his address. Ambassador, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, oops, I forgot my glasses. It's a recent phenomenon, and I tend not to, to have them on me. So, Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Nigeria, Honorable Minister, honorable dignitaries here present, Professor Patrick Utomi, our host today. I'm greatly honored to take part to this severe annual lecture on delegation by His Excellency President Paul Kagame, who would have wished to be here in person, but was not able to make it due to national imperatives that need his attention at home. He entrusted me to extend to you his sincere regrets and to wish you successful discussions. Allow me, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to say a few words in connection with today's theme. I wish to first and foremost applaud the Center for Values in Leadership and Professor Patrick Utomi in particular for proposing to reflect on a subject very relevant to our continent at large and to its constituent countries within their peculiar socio-economic and political perspectives. The three components of the chosen theme subtly feed in each other, leading to quickly understand that the centerpiece around which they gravitate is the people and their deserved welfare. You will excuse me for my repetition of the known, but we have to acknowledge that the people of Africa live in abject poverty, and this situation has compounded the continued erosion of their dignity within the global outlook. The situation is more so saddening when the statistics highlight our continent being endowed with bountiful natural resources, which are unfortunately not usefully tapped to generate wealth. The challenge before us is how we restore the order of things to ensure that the resources serve the noble cause of elevating our people to deserved levels of development. It is, of course, encouraging hearing that economic growth is currently on the rise in Africa, and every player concerned should strive to keep it up. But surely, much more needs to be done, and well beyond the perspective of creating wealth for its own sake. Wealth is certainly a critical asset to eliminate poverty and to attain human dignity, but there is still need to look furthermore into people-centered aspects like equity, inclusiveness, sustainability, which only good leadership can dispense and can iteratively put to good use. For instance, the transformation characteristic of Asian tigers is to be credited to the capacity of the leadership of those countries to realize that their fundamental wealth, endowment, was the people, for which proper development paradigms had to be crafted for survival and ultimately for dignifying development. It did happen in Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea, and other countries in the region, and it can happen in our countries in Africa within our own context. In Rwanda, while we are still in the long process of transforming into a middle-income country, we have noted some significant levels of progress happening based on those values of placing human dignity at the center of our undertakings. The leadership of the country put focus on thinking big and achieving the maximum using minimal resources available, but most importantly, capitalizing on the people who feature in the process as the main actors and the main beneficiaries. For the first five years, the country was able to pull out of poverty more than 1 million people, owing to resorting to homegrown initiatives adapted to urgent development needs, making the right choices, participatory planning involving the people, government, and development partners, tapping and facilitating the power of private investment from within and from abroad, paved the way to that progress we are witnessing. The choice to make widely accessible modern tools, such as communication technologies, has caused seamless connectivity between rural and urban areas and accruing mutual benefits in terms of integration of markets and associated production and supply chains, but also in terms of easy access to routine and new services by the citizenry. Specific programs deliberately tailored for poor families, such as the One Cow per Family, we call it in our language, Girinka initiative, have dramatically changed lives and exemplify that war on poverty can be won owing to strategic actions within our means if we made the right choices. Concerning that One Cow per Family initiative, you may know that cattle possession has always been considered as a symbol and a metric of wealth in Rwanda. But of course, not everyone would own a cow. So in line with the endeavor to uplift needy households out of poverty, the President of the Republic initiated that program. Each fiscal year, budget was earmarked to sourcing cows to be allocated to poor families identified within their communities. Subsequently, willing individuals and corporate companies followed pace in donating cows for the same purpose, adding up to government's effort. Within a few years after it was incepted, this initiative proved to be a quick poverty killer. Recipient families were able to have milk for consumption and for sale. Cows produced manure the owners used to improve the fertility of their land, making it more productive. The beneficiaries gradually appropriated the philosophy behind the initiative and joined in donating sprouts of their cows to not yet served cattle-less families in their neighborhood. In addition to its economic significance, this initiative has created more cohesion within the communities where social bonds increase between the donors and the recipients. Those were some examples I was giving to show how good choices can help move towards dignified lives. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to once more register my appreciation for giving us an opportunity to reflect on a challenging yet noble theme. Striving for human dignity is an imperative we have to embrace wholeheartedly as Africans, in due regard to the wide gap we still have to fill. We are not starting from ground zero, fortunately, since we have living examples to emulate in other parts of the world that previously went through similar challenges. The struggle is daunting but not impossible to win. Our gathering today testifies to that shared conviction. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Another round of applause, please. Before I call the next guest, I'm going to call someone I'm sure you all will be delighted to see. Smile before he comes up, I assure you. Smile in advance. You know, the next set of people we're going to call are so important that I'm going to step aside now for a senior colleague, a distinguished Nigerian, the father of comedy in Nigeria. Please join me in welcoming Ali Baba.
Your Excellency, sirs, okay, now Vice President is holding his head. I'm going to maintain my cool. You know, since he stopped collecting offering, things have changed. Now he gives offering. It's an honor to be in front of you here. I am a product of poverty, and now I can't say that I'm poor because I managed to tap into the opportunities that have been given to me, and that is one thing that this lecture is about. It's about seeing how we can move from the indices of poverty to the high ground of wealth and how it affects human dignity. My dad once told me, he said, the difference between a poor man and a rich man is what they get. And I said, how? He said, okay, but he will show me sometime later. And that day in the evening, we were strolling in Ojo Cantonment, and he called